So within the framework of its mandate as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council, and reaffirmed the two countries' joint action to resolve this issue. He added, "We have a common objective to put an end to the Zionist massacres, to achieve a ceasefire, to continue the delivery of humanitarian aid, to implement immediately the decisions of the International Court of Justice, to condemn the perpetrators of war crimes, and to work towards a peaceful and definitive settlement guaranteeing the recognition of a free and independent Palestinian state with Al-Quds as its capital." Regarding bilateral cooperation, he noted the major importance of his meeting with the President of the Republic, adding, "We are here within the framework of the Foreign Affairs Commission of the Turkish Grand National Assembly. We conveyed the greetings of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to his brother, President Abdelmajid Tebboune, with whom we discussed issues of common interest." In this connection, he recalled the agreement signed as part of the presidential visits exchanged, which gave rise to the involvement of businessmen and the civil society in both countries in the implementation of these agreements. He also expressed his satisfaction at the level of bilateral economic cooperation, adding that this level was reflected in the volume of investment and trade between the two countries, which is working to reach $10 billion in the future in all areas.
And the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, has said from Addis Ababa that the forthcoming elections for senior officials of the African Union Commission are of major importance, hence the imperative to take into account the criteria of qualifications and competence among candidates who should be the bearers of visions, ambitions, and projects capable of raising the African continent to the highest ranks and levels. The details with our colleague Said Bougazi.
Speaking at the 44th Ordinary Session of the AU Executive Council on the clause relating to the forthcoming elections of senior officials of the AU Commission, Ahmed Attaf said that the AU Commission is not the only institution in Africa that has a role to play. He pointed out that the election of the chairperson, vice chairperson, and commissioners of the AU Commission is of major importance, hence the need to devote particular attention to it, since it will be a matter of appointing the women and men who will be responsible for overseeing the action of the organization and influencing its responsiveness to the expectations and aspirations of our peoples and states as a consecration of the great African project. The Algerian delegation takes note of the different versions proposed and the choices made, notably the principle of alternation between the 5 regions and within each region between countries in alphabetical order, said the minister, adding that we are deeply convinced of the imperative need to keep an issue of such importance free from mechanical procedures that do not take into account the competence or qualifications of the candidates who must be the bearers of visions, ambitions, and projects capable of raising our continent to the highest ranks. This was an opportunity for the foreign minister to underline the importance for the African continent of a selective and competitive process that would favor the most experienced and best qualified Africans to lead the African Commission in line with our collective commitment to improve the governance of our organization, to develop its performance, and to equip it with people worthy of leading it and achieving our aspirations and expectations, and even crystallizing them on the ground in the best possible way. The African continent is worth much more than such a commitment and such a process to elect the best of the best from among the elite, concluded Ahmed Attaf.
And the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, has held talks in Addis Ababa with the Latvian Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, Andres Pidligovic, on the second day of the 44th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union, according to a ministry press release. The talks focused on the priorities and objectives of the Republic of Latvia's candidacy for a non-permanent seat at the UN Security Council for the period 2026 and 2027 for the first time in its history. Algeria's permanent representative to the UN In New York, Ammar Benjama has called for global cooperation to defeat terrorist organizations, emphasizing the need to address root causes to effectively combat terrorism. Speaking at a meeting of the UN Security Council on Thursday on threats to international peace and security resulting from acts of terrorism, Benjama said that to defeat groups such as Daesh, we need global cooperation, emphasizing in this context that collaboration with governments, regional groups, and United Nations counter-terrorism organizations is crucial. Let's listen to him.
To defeat groups such Daesh, we need a global cooperation, collaboration with government, with regional institutions, and also with UN counterterrorism organization is crucial.
And the permanent representative of Algeria indicated that the latest report of the Secretary General of the United Nations on Daesh is very worrisome. The recommendations of the 50th anniversary or the 50th meeting of the Executive Committee for the Parliamentary Union of the Member States of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation held yesterday at the Marriott Hotel in Constantine with the participation of the Union Standing Commission on Economic and Environmental Affairs insisted on the support for Algeria's efforts in the context of its status as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council to implement the decisions of the International Court of Justice (ICJ) concerning the odious crimes of which the Palestinian people are victims. The details in this report by Asiya Bakar.
The recommendations read out by Yazid ibn Hamouda, member of the Executive Committee of the Parliamentary Union of the Member States of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, stress the importance of support for Algeria's efforts in favor of the Palestinian cause, notably its latest request to the Security Council to speed up the implementation of the ICJ's decisions, including an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and the prosecution of the perpetrators of the crimes. The PUOIC Executive Committee meeting reaffirmed the support for efforts to enable the State of Palestine to become a full member of the United Nations and its categorical rejection of the forced displacement of Palestinians, while affirming that the future of Palestine can only be decided by the Palestinian people. The recommendations praised the South Africa's initiative in bringing a case against the Zionist entity before the ICJ following the genocide committed against Palestinians in Gaza and the other occupied Palestinian territories, and welcomed the exceptional measures decided by the ICJ and the mobilization of international support for its implementation and for stopping the genocide and forcing the criminal Zionist entity to comply with international law. The recommendations also include an appeal to all national, regional and international parliamentary bodies to urge their countries to send urgent humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip, while highlighting the dynamism that has characterized the mandate of Brahim Boughali at the head of the PUOIC, who has taken care to be in tune with all events, notably those relating to the fundamental issues and causes of the Islamic nation, including the Palestinian cause.
And on the 133rd day of the barbaric Zionist aggression by land, sea and air against the defenseless Palestinian population in the besieged Gaza Strip, dozens of Palestinians have been killed and others injured, in addition to the ongoing destruction of homes, public buildings and hospitals across the Palestinian enclave. In a preliminary toll, the ongoing Israeli aggression on Gaza since October 7, 2023 has resulted in more than 28,663 confirmed fatalities, including over 12,000 children. Additionally, over 68,395 people have been injured. More details on the latest developments with Saad Bouhazi.
At least 11 Palestinians were reported killed last night as a result of the continuing Zionist airstrikes on various areas of the Gaza Strip, according to local and medical sources. In Rafah, south of the Strip, a number of civilians were killed and others injured in Zionist occupation airstrikes on a house in the Nasr neighborhood east of the city. Local sources confirmed that the occupation forces targeted 2 homes belonging to the Zarab and Judeh families, resulting in the killing of 11 Palestinians and multiple injuries. Earlier in the night, at least 2 people were killed and others injured in Zionist attacks on the homes of the Sabah and Afana families in the Essika Street area east of Jabalia in northern Gaza. Local sources reported that civil defense and ambulance teams retrieved the bodies of 2 martyrs and several wounded individuals from the rubble of 2 houses. The teams are continuing search and rescue efforts to locate potential survivors. Occupation warplanes also targeted the Tel Zatar area in the northern Gaza Strip, coinciding with artillery shelling by occupation forces in the village of Maghraka in central Gaza and around the vicinity of the University College south of the Es-Sabra neighborhood in Gaza City. In Khan Yunis in the south, Zionist occupation forces compelled the administration of the Nasser Medical Complex to relocate 95 healthcare workers, 11 of their family members, 191 patients, and 165 accompanying individuals to the old Nasser building under harsh and frightening conditions, lacking food and infant formula and facing a severe shortage of water.
And 3 patients in the intensive care unit at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, died this morning due to the disruption in oxygen supply caused by a power outage amid the continuing Zionist siege of the hospital, according to medical sources. Additionally, reports indicate that 2 women have been forced to give birth in inhuman conditions without electricity, water, food, or heating within the hospital. The sources reveal that the imminent depletion of the fuel and the Zionist blockade pose a threat to the lives of patients and vulnerable children at the complex. The hospital administration blamed the occupation for the well-being of patients and medical teams, urging all international institutions to swiftly intervene and rescue those in the medical complex. The spokesperson of the UN Secretary General Stéphane Dujarric has said during his daily briefing that the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, indicated that intensified airstrikes on Rafah are further complicating the already fragile humanitarian operation there. The UN and its humanitarian partners continue to do the near impossible to assist people in need despite the risks. It said that the conditions for civilians could be even worse than before, even in these many weeks of the war in Gaza. Let's listen to Stéphane Dujarric.
Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tells us that intensified airstrikes on Rafah are further complicating the already fragile humanitarian operation there. We and our humanitarian partners continue to do the near impossible to assist people in need despite the risks. However, we need basic safety conditions, roads to be open, trucks to be able to move, and supplies to get in with staff capacity. We will continue to do everything we can to assist people, but with a potential escalation of fighting in Rafah, the conditions for civilians could be even worse than they have been so far, even in these many weeks of the war in Gaza. Meanwhile, in south of Wadi Gaza, our partners are distributing food, blankets, mattresses to displaced people in areas that we're able to access.
Meanwhile, Dujarric added that the World Health Organization WHO announced that a key humanitarian partner, International Medical Corps, has constructed a field hospital on the border between Khan Yunis and Rafah to help address the shortage of healthcare facilities.
And on the health front, the World Health Organization said one of its key humanitarian partners in the International Medical Corps had constructed a field hospital on the border between Khan Yunis and Rafah to help address the shortage of healthcare facilities. And on that figure, you will have seen the reports of the situation Nasser Medical Complex in Gaza. Dr. Tedros, the head of WHO, said today that he's alarmed of reports of civilians killed, as well as orders to evacuate people seeking shelter at that medical complex, adding that 2 WHO missions have been denied in the last 4 days and that WHO has lost touch and contact with the hospital's personnel. Dr. Tedros said that hospitals must be safeguarded.
And the General Secretariat of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation has strongly condemned the demolition by the Zionist occupiers of Palestinian homes in the vicinity of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied Al-Quds, calling on the international community to shoulder its responsibilities and for the Zionist entity to halt its plans and respect international law. In a statement, the Islamic Organization underlined that what is happening in Silwan is an extension of the process of forced displacement of the citizens of the Al-Quds region in favor of Judaization projects and colonial plans with the aim of changing the demographic, geographical, and legal reality of the holy city. And Jewish settlers set fire this morning to a house, a vehicle, and 2 livestock pens in the wilderness of the village of Kisan in the southern West Bank province of Bethlehem, according to local sources. The head of the Kisan Village Council, Musa Ebayat, informed Wafa that a group of settlers from the Mali Amos colony illegally built on stolen Palestinian lands attacked the village and set ablaze a house, a vehicle, and 2 livestock pens used for breeding livestock and storing fodder. The Irish Foreign Minister, Michael Martin, has announced that his country will provide a financial support of €20 million to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA. Michael Martin said that UNRWA is the backbone of efforts to provide aid to civilians in Gaza, where the Zionist entity is continuing its aggression. UNRWA urgently needs the support of all the member countries of the United Nations so that it can continue to work on behalf of the 1.9 million civilians displaced as a result of the aggression, he insisted, before adding that nothing can replace the work of UNRWA in Gaza. And Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has described the Zionist entity's relentless attacks on the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip and Rafah as inexplicable, saying that the creation of an independent Palestinian state is the only option capable of guaranteeing peace in the region. And before wrapping up our news bulletin, as part of the continuous efforts or coverage of the 7th session of the Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, due to take place from February 29 to March 2nd here in Algeria, we have the pleasure today to host university professor at the Faculty of Al-Wed and who is specialized in international financial market, Mr. Hisham Gharbi, who gave us this interview. Let's listen to him, and we'll meet you again tomorrow for first edition of our news bulletin. Thank you. The 7th Summit meeting of the Heads of State and Government of the Gas Exporting Countries, Algeria 2024. The Algerian radio is ensuring round-the-clock coverage of the Algiers Summit. A special coverage and interviews from several gas-producing and exporting countries will be broadcast by the Algerian radio thanks to its network of correspondents.
محمد بن سلطان مبعوث الإذاعة الجزائرية إلى العاصمة القطرية الدوحة.
سي دكار ثم ناخذ السنغال كريم الحاج محمد وش قالنا راديو ثغنوث.
رابح هوادف مبعوث الإذاعة الجزائرية إلى العاصمة الموريتانية نقصو.
You can follow the event from February 29 to March 2nd on the waves and digital platforms of the Algerian radio. In his speech on the occasion of the launch of the summit's website, the Algerian Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Arqab, said that the summit is of a paramount importance as it constitutes a platform to strengthen international cooperation. What can you say about this statement?
Firstly, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you, Mr. Mohammed, in your international Algerian radio. So what gives
the pleasure is ours.
Okay, thank you very much. And what gives this summit more momentum and greater importance as the statement made by Algerian Minister of Energy and Mines, Mr. Mohamed Arqab, regarding the importance of the summit as a platform strengthen international cooperation, and I think it has this significance in several fronts. I'm going to start with the most important of them. The number one is the timing of the summit. Is considered very important and sensible, given two essential stages that the world has gone through, which is the Ukrainian-Russian war, and now the militarization of the Red Sea, as what is happening in Gaza Strip. So, and number two, the opening of the headquarters of the Gas Research Institute of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum on the same day that this forum opens.
Okay.
This institute is considered very important in developing technology, expanding scientific and academic cooperation between them, developing training programs. And I think the number three, Algeria is the largest supplier of natural gas in the Mediterranean basin in Africa. And the economic cooperation. So gas exporting countries often rely heavily on international markets for the sale of their natural gas resources. By coming together in summits, these nations can discuss strategies for collaboration, such as joint infrastructure projects or coordinate marketing efforts to enhance their collective economic interests. And the energy security. So natural gas is a vital component of global energy security, so which many countries relying on it for electricity generation, heating, and industrial process. Cooperation among gas exporting nations can help ensure that stable supplies and mitigate the risk between them and the disruption to the global energy market. And
exactly.
The political stability. So Algeria can help with this side, political stability. So strengthening international cooperation among gas exporting countries can contribute to political stability by fostering dialogue between them and understanding among nations with shared economic interests. So this can help prevent conflicts and tensions between them that may arise from competition over energy resources.
Exactly, yeah, perfectly understood. So, Mr. Gharbi, Algeria has mobilized all the human, logistical, and material resources for the smooth running and the success of the summit under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. What is the real significance of this summit for Algeria in particular and for the rest of the world in general?
Okay, so the significance of the gas summit for Algeria under the leadership of Mr. President Abdelmajid Tebboune can be understood in both sides. The first one, domestic side. Economic opportunities. Algeria is one of the world's leading exporters of natural gas, as Algeria now current production gas is 130 billion cubic meters annually, of which it exports 50 billion cubic meters. And Mr. President said we're going to export until 2028 100 billion cubic meters. So in the side of economic opportunities, Algeria is like to showcase its resources and attract investment in its energy sector by hosting and actively participating in the summit. Algeria can strengthen its position as a key player in the global gas market and potentially secure beneficial trade agreements with other participating nations. And diplomatic influence. So hosting a major international summit like the Gas Forum allows Algeria to enhance its diplomatic influence and stature on the world stage by demonstrating its ability to convene and facilitate discussions among gas exporting countries. Algeria can position itself as a mediator and a peacemaker in region and a global affairs, thereby increasing its geopolitical relevance. And in the side of energy security, for example, so the summit provides an opportunity for Algeria to engage in discussions about energy security and cooperation with other gas exporting nations by collaborating on issues such as infrastructure development, supply diversification, and technology sharing. Algeria can contribute to efforts to ensure stable and reliable energy supplies for both itself and the rest of the world. And the side, for example, the side of the rest of the world, the significance of the summit lies in its potential to foster greater cooperation and collaboration among gas exporting nations, thereby promoting energy security, economic development, for example, environmental sustainable investments in this site is very important now for all the rest of the world.
Yeah, especially amid the volatility of the gas market. That is prevailing in the world. So, Mr. Gharbi, you have mentioned most of them, but what will be the main outcomes of the summit? or in other words, the points of agreement among the participating countries?
Yes. In fact, so global gas market, it's completely different, for example, from the oil market. For example, I think in this aspect, so this forum is completely different from OPEC, for example, Qatar, because oil prices are changed rapidly every day, whereas gas depends on long-term contracts that makes the big difference between the two cartels. If you say this forum is a cartel, I think it's completely different from, for example, OPEC cartel. But Algeria wants to make this forum maybe one of their decisions they are going to discuss about, maybe to make this forum an international organization. And maybe why not to make them in the future a cartel like OPEC, but in some another sites, not the sites of, for example, the side of production or the side of determining the price.
The price, exactly.
There are another sites we can work about. For example, the infrastructure investment. So the discussion at the summit may lead to agreements on investments in gas infrastructure, such as pipelines and liquefied natural gas, LNG, for example. Imported infrastructure can enhance the flexibility and the efficiency of gas transportation, reducing, for example, disruption, market volatility, and reducing the risk of the market in the long-term period. For example, gas exporting countries may use this summit to explore strategies, new strategies, how to work with the volatility in the spot market. Yes, we have the spot market because the spot market is the market where you can buy and sell gas in the same day. So not long term. So in the short term, yes,
not
in
on the
short
long
term,
run.
yes, and the spot market, yes, we can work in this side. And this point in the spot market, and Algeria is went to the spot market this year and the last year, 2023, and yes, Algeria worked with the spot market. So becoming now is important for Algeria and for the rest of other countries to go to the spot market, not just for long-term contracts between importing and exporting countries.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Hisham Gharbi, I thank you very much for this interview, rich interview. I recall that you are a professor specialized in international financial markets at the University of Al Wad here in Algeria. So, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure to be with you, Mr. Mohammed. Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure, Mr. Gharbi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.